You're now listening to Sanity at the Movies, Kung Fu Edition. Dong.
All right.
Now, me and Ben, you may have thought that you were just hearing us do sound effects, but what actually happened is that Ben attacked me right there, and there was a flurry of awesomeness, and we both hit the ground, and we're both bleeding from multiple spots, multiple wounds right now.
Yeah, it was worth it, though.
It was worth it to start our Kung Fu episode, our martial arts episode. Now, this is an episode, Ben, that we devised principally as a means of tricking Jake.
Oh, my.
Who's not joining us because he's doing Evansville pastor business right now. But we tricked him. We wanted to trick him into watching an old Jackie Chan movie.
Oh, man. Yes, we did. Drunken Master.
Drunken Master, yeah. From, I think, 1978 or 79, or it's early.
It's early. Let's see. I have the whole filmography of Jackie Chan here.
Ben, you just keep talking to the audience. I'm going to go turn off the dryer.
Yeah. It's 1977. And, folks, I would encourage all of our listeners who enjoy drunken violence to watch Drunken Master, because there's a lot of alcohol consumption and there's a lot of beating people up, and a lot of it's played for laughs, because this is old school kung fu comedy. Actually, this is, as I understand it, kind of the invention. Well, I'm going to say too much here, but this is the era of kung fu comedy, and I don't know if Jackie Chan invented kung fu comedy, but
he certainly perfected it and brought it into the mainstream, if nothing else.
That's right.
So my understanding, I've never seen it, but my understanding is that a movie called The 36th Chamber of Shaolin or something like that is one of the first kung fu.
That's not a comedy. 36 Crazy Fists is probably the one you're thinking of.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I don't pretend to be an expert on the subject,
so
but
you were going to say kung fu comedy, right?
Yeah. There is a kung fu comedy that predates Chan, for sure, a very popular one in that era, like right before Drunken Master.
Well, it is Chan, Jackie Chan and the 36 Crazy Fists. 36 Chamber of Shaolin is a Gordon Liu movie. Gordon Liu famously appeared in Kill Bill a couple of times.
Yes, he's the old man with the wispy beard and all that stuff.
That's right.
Not that we recommend those films at all.
No, we don't. So that's a movie. That's from, actually, that 36 Chamber of Shaolin is a couple of years after Drunken Master, and it's a totally serious kung fu movie about a guy who goes to Shaolin monks to train, and there's like a famous set of training sequences where there's all these bizarre ways that he's trained to master kung fu so that he can avenge someone or do something at the end.
Well, I have egg on my face. You have dishonored me, Ben.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, I pulled the wrong title. But I stand by the fact that I think there is a funny kung fu movie that comes before Jackie Chan, or maybe certainly before Drunken Master. But Drunken Master is kind of the one that was popular and helped solidify the whole funny kung fu.
Yeah, I said 77. This is saying 78, Drunken Master.
Okay.
Which we may or may not have watched for this episode.
Yeah, so just to tell people, we watch The Matrix, and then sometimes we like to pair movies together. Like we're going to watch something that's more new or more immediately relevant, and then we're going to watch something that maybe influenced that. So, I don't know, for example, if we watched the latest sci-fi movie next month, then we might try and pair it with Metropolis or Blade Runner or something like that. That's kind of one of our strategies, which I don't think you've really ever seen us employ all that much on this podcast, but moving forward, that's one of our strategies. So we watched The Matrix, which sort of helped mainstream in the West a certain style of fast kung fu, Hong Kong style action, and we thought we'd watch one of the progenitors of that, and so we all watched Jackie Chan's Drunken Master. But there's nothing to really say about Drunken Master. I mean, it's kind of fun, I guess. Like,
it's really crass. It's silly. I mean, Jackie Chan is charming.
Yeah, he's Jackie Chan, incredibly charismatic actor. Just
no,
whatever. I don't even know if he's a good actor, but whatever that quality that just makes someone really watchable and really likable on screen, he's got that in spades.
Yeah, I think we'll talk more about choreography as we go. But if you're like, okay, I'm going to go on YouTube, I'm going to watch a clip from Drunken Master, and hope no one asks why I'm watching a clip from a movie called Drunken Master, and what you're gonna see is like this much slower, more formal choreography than what you're used to if you've seen any Jackie Chan made in like the 90s. That was kind of the style then. It's very elaborate. It's actually very complex. It's pretty fast, but it's not fluid. Right. It's like there's a pause between each movement sometimes. Well, so I think we'll talk more about that as we go.
Well, we watched Drunken Master, and like I said, there's not a lot to say specifically about Drunken Master, but we thought we'd do a little episode on. Well, first of all, we were so happy that we tricked Jake into watching Drunken Master because he was texting both Ben and me and saying, "Why are you making me watch this Power Rangers episode?" Which is how he condescendingly and borderline racistly, although said.
Power Rangers is Japanese. This is Chinese.
Yeah, this is Chinese, man. Like two completely different cultures.
Right. Okay, so fun fact, I just have to put this here. So there's another Jackie Chan kung fu comedy. Actually, Yuen Wu-ping's first film. Yuen Wu-ping.
Choreographer for The Matrix. And some other famous things. I think he did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He's a genius. He's become... If you know the name of a Chinese martial arts choreographer, it will be his. Right.
Because he's been in Hollywood as well as China. But his directorial debut was Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, which is a Jackie Chan movie that came out half a year earlier than Drunken Master.
Right.
It has the same drunken old man who teaches Jackie Chan, good fighting.
Right.
And it has actually the same mustached guy play the villain, who I just learned... Hwang Jun-lee is a Japanese-born Korean martial artist.
There you go.
So he plays Thunderleg, Drunken Master. Anyway, so that's the kind of stuff. These guys were pumping out these films, and they were just making them as quick as they could.
Right.
And even using a consistent set of character types, especially for a few of these early Jackie Chan movies.
Well, let me give people a roadmap for this episode, which... We haven't talked about a roadmap for this episode. We're just kicking by the seat of our pants today, doing triple kicks like Donnie Yen.
That's right.
So we're gonna take it easy today, Ben. This is gonna be a nice kind of easy listening podcast. Just two friends talking about martial arts movies. You know what I mean?
Kind of geeking out a little.
We'll geek out a little bit. We'll talk about some history and some context and have some sort of Christian thoughts about things, but I think this is going to be more of a casual Ben and Nathan talk in a scattershot manner about things that interest them kind of episode.
Kind of like the Nathan and Ben talk version of Jackie Chan's Kung Fu Antics.
Kind of, yes.
Except the opposite.
Right.
Because not carefully choreographed for thousands of hours ahead of time.
No, this would be more akin to a Jason Bourne action scene, really.
Oh.
Kind of choppy, all over the place. Not really sure what's going on.
Edited carefully together in post to sound like a couple of geniuses talking about kung fu movies.
Right. Coherence achieved through sound, but not visually yet. But that's every podcast.
All right.
Yeah. So we're just going to enjoy ourselves, take it slow, be a little scattershot today. But if you like hanging out with me and Ben and hearing us talk martial arts... And boy,
who doesn't?
Yeah,
our years of training have prepared us well.
If you're a member of humanity, I probably should have just said.
No kidding.
This is the podcast for you.
Wow.
All right. So I will though give a little roadmap for the episode, which is as follows. So we'll talk a little bit about the martial arts genre in general. Maybe give a little bit of a history of it, and then we'll talk about what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and maybe we'll ask the clickbaity question of, should Christians watch martial arts films? Maybe we'll compare them to other types of action movies, to Western action movies. What are the things that they do better over there? What are the things that they do worse? I don't know, Ben, does that sound like a good roadmap for this episode?
I think it's a good roadmap, Nathan.
Yeah, we can always take some detours. Me and Ben both, obviously.
Maybe take an off ramp if we have to.
You can take an off ramp. No, we're crashing. So let's talk about martial arts movies, like just the sort of history of. I guess people should understand, if you don't, that Hong Kong is one of the filmmaking centers of the world. So you have Hollywood, obviously, and then you have different countries that have, depending on the country and depending on their culture, and depending on all kinds of things, depending on how rich they are, some countries develop robust film industries. Some countries develop robust film industries that don't tend to break out into other markets. Like India has one of the most robust film industries, but it's very much a niche product. You know, the Bollywood film, people do watch them here, but I mean, how many Bollywood films have you ever seen, Ben?
I have seen zero. Actually, Megan's seen one or two, and she wants me to watch one sometime, and I will. But I haven't seen any.
I've seen one or two. They're tremendously fun, but they're not a huge product here outside of a niche market. Hong Kong is a market that has broken through internationally and did with Bruce Lee, basically, in the early 1970s. But they've had a robust film industry since the war years, 1940 or so. They began to develop into a one of the most, outside of, Hollywood. American Hollywood has always been the filmmaking capital of the world. Yay, America. But in terms of international markets, Hong Kong has one of the most robust ones. And I don't pretend to be an expert in international affairs and all that kind of stuff. Do you understand, Ben? Do you understand what the difference is between Hong Kong and China?
Well, only in the roughest terms, because Hong Kong had been under British protection for so long. When did that lift? When was Hong Kong returned to the nation of China, so to speak? It's only as recent as 1997. I'm sure most of our listeners know that. So it was a colony and dependent territory, to quote Wikipedia, of the British Empire from 1841 to 97. And that meant that they had a lot more economic freedom and creative freedom than they do now, although that they're still continuing to do a lot of business as usual in terms of making whatever movies they want.
Well, with this relationship with the West, they developed such a robust, several robust industries, including filmmaking, and some of those things have continued past 97.
Yeah.
In fact, martial arts kind of had a renaissance in the 2000s with movies like The Matrix and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Jackie Chan and Jet Li and several people attempting to make Western breakthroughs and ultimately kind of failing.
Failing for sure.
But all your Rush Hours and things like that did happen around that that time, that glorious period of history.
Yeah. And so you had, like, for instance, Jackie Chan, Hong Kong born, Donnie Yen, Hong Kong born. These are very famous. Donnie Yen, you probably would know him best from Ip Man.
Right. You know Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan's a household name.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
If Jackie Chan is like the Beatles, then Donnie Yen would be like whatever the band is that's not quite as popular as the Beatles.
The Beach Boys.
Except for Donnie Yen's ultimately, you might argue he's a superior physical performer in some way. I mean, I don't know. We're talking apples and oranges. Who cares?
Yeah.
But
it's pretty different.
It's Coke and Pepsi. It doesn't matter.
And then you have, so Jet Li was Chinese born, like mainland China.
Right.
But has done tons of work in the Hong Kong film industry. In fact, mainly.
If you know a famous action movie that's Eastern influenced, whether it's like the John Woo stuff, where they're diving through the air with pigeons, firing guns, whether it's Jackie Chan, whether it's Bruce Lee, all the stuff, the old cheesy Shaw Brothers action, these are all Hong Kong movies. And so obviously martial arts movies have spread into different industries. What's the guy that did The Raid? What is that, like Indonesia?
That's Iko Uwais. He's an Indonesian,
right? Yeah. So
martial artist.
Indonesia now has a pretty robust martial arts.
Well, and here's where, I mean, if you don't ever watch The Raid, I would say I've tried to watch fight clips from it because I like martial arts.
It's very violent.
It's crazy violent, and really that harks back to the days of a lot of old school kung fu movies where oh, of course they're going to fight, and then you're going to watch the good guys pull the bad guys' teeth out, and they're going to be like, rah, and they're going to be bleeding everywhere. And then you're going to watch like people get dismembered. And I know that there's a lot of movies like this. I haven't really seen them. Jackie Chan is what I didn't really grow up watching martial arts movies, but Jackie Chan is what I got into, and some Jet Li stuff. And they don't tend so much towards bloodlust.
Right.
Which is something that makes it a lot easier to enjoy them. But a lot of this stuff, including the new burgeoning Indonesian martial arts movie industry, and some stuff from Thailand with Tony Jaa, there was some
Ong Bak and The Protector.
And The Protector. Those guys are really more like, no, we just like bloodlust, and we're going to do as much gross stuff as we want. And Jackie Chan is actually a refreshingly different thing.
Right.
Most of the time.
Well, so if you want to trace the history of this, and I don't pretend to be a super expert.
Me either.
But you have, let's just start with Bruce Lee. I know there were things that came before Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee broke out, huge international star, made Enter the Dragon with Paramount Pictures or whoever, made a movie with Western money that really helped make Hong Kong action cinema and that whole style popular. Which,
by the way, has some nudity and is actually a pretty mean-spirited, violent movie. Don't recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the morality of these movies more a little bit later on for following our roadmap. But yeah, a lot of these movies have, shall we say, different moral sensibilities than what we're used to in the West. Although more and more our movies and our action stars are more like that. But we'll get to that in a minute. So Bruce Lee breaks out, and Bruce Lee's a very proud and serious performer, very full of himself. Very the whole cult of Bruce Lee is just that he's almost like this godlike figure. He's awesome, and his movies are all about how awesome Bruce Lee is. And so you have a ton of imitators, and you're doing a ton of kind of serious, awesome movies in that style. And one thing that you'll find is that a lot of film industries outside of Hollywood are much more quickly and cheaply producing movies. And so when something's popular, a host of imitators, I mean, Hollywood does this too, but Hollywood, it takes a couple of years for the machine to click into place. And then the machine moves kind of slowly and ponderously just because Hollywood has a lot of money and a lot of prestige on the line. And the Hollywood machine just moves a little slower. But when Bruce Lee became big, they flooded the market, like the Hong Kong, they were pumping these things out for, Jackie Chan would star in more than one movie a year, and it's just a completely different business model over there, which means Bruce Lee's really popular. Suddenly you're getting 50 movies a year that are like that. And so you have the Bruce Lee style, and then Jackie Chan comes along, and Jackie Chan is refreshingly different because he doesn't take himself seriously. He's having fun with it.
Yeah.
And it's not about necessarily Jackie Chan dominating his enemies. It's about Jackie Chan just surviving and being awesome and eventually dominating.
Eventually. But he's like a scamp, he's like playful, silly. He's going to have fun. He's going to be the butt of a lot of jokes.
Right.
He's going to get hurt a lot. It's like part of the fun is watching Jackie Chan make an idiot of himself before he figures things out or barely get through something, Whereas Bruce Lee is not interested in that side of things. Bruce Lee is like, oh, the bad guy touched me once, and then I kicked him in the head 20 times, and now he's dead.
Right.
And that's it.
Bruce Lee's kind of boring for that reason, I think, actually, because there's never any drama. There's no tension. You never think Bruce Lee's on the ropes, ever. There's just there is no interest in that. It's more like watching not even the end of a Terminator movie, but the beginning of a Terminator movie where we're just establishing that the Terminator is really good at terminating things. Like that's what a Bruce Lee movie is like. He just comes in and he dominates people, and they never have any kind of a chance.
But he is charismatic.
He is charismatic, yeah. I mean, there's a reason Bruce Lee was the one that broke through. There's something about the guy. But I don't know that I've ever actually really just loved a Bruce Lee movie. I mean, I think I've seen them all.
Really?
I mean, there's only 5 or 6 of them before he died pretty young.
Yeah, I don't think it's much. I don't think it's that much fun.
Yeah, if you were going to pull up one Bruce Lee fight, I would actually say, just because it's weird and kind of interesting, the fight in the temple or whatever it is with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from
Oh, yeah. Game of Death.
Game of Death is kind of fun. The one where he wears the yellow jumpsuit that Quentin Tarantino famously used for What's-Her-Face. And
for Uma Thurman and Kill Bill.
Yeah. Kind of interesting, just because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has these long legs and this really gangly body, and it's just interesting. What would you say? A mix of
contrast
of types. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So Jackie Chan does all that stuff and is awesome. And
yeah, Jackie Chan does all that stuff. Jackie Chan, as I understand it, was trained. This is where I should know my Chan trivia a little better. But he grew up boarding a lot of his youth in an opera school, which is not primarily where you learn to sing. At least not in Hong Kong. You do learn to sing. You don't learn to sing like what we understand as opera. Chinese opera is a very different art form. If you want to cut that out. but you are under, well, what you do learn to do is perform. You learn acrobatics and martial arts, and you learn stuff for the stage, and you learn comedy and drama, I guess, and all kinds of things. And Jackie Chan's style is really different from, if you ever watch a Jet Li movie, you see the way Jet Li moves in these like long, elegant, graceful, flowing movements. That's because Jet Li, all of his skills come from training in these wushu competitions, where you're not actually sparring, you're just competing in forms. Who can be the fastest and the most graceful and the most perfect in completing a certain form? And Jet Li was a genius at that from like an early age. Like I think at age 12, he won this crazy wushu championship. Jackie Chan completely different. Jackie Chan is like, think of him as vaudeville or something.
Right.
Like he's training to be the people's entertainment in a different way than Jet Li was.
Right.
So their styles are very different. And Jet Li is going to emphasize comedy and pratfalls and acrobatics more than Jet Li.
Right.
That's just a thing.
Well, Jackie Chan has always said that some of his great inspirations were people like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd. And you can definitely see that in his work. If you watch those old silent comedies, they actually have a lot of similar moments and motifs and moments to a Jackie Chan movie. And those guys came out of vaudeville as well, or out of, you know, the American equivalent. And yeah, there's something completely different about Jackie Chan in that sense. I guess we should mention the Shaw Brothers real quick. So there's a famous studio in Hong Kong that pumped these things out. And in the 1970s, they were the ones that produced what you kind of probably still, even in this woke age, people have these, now we would probably consider them to be racist caricatures of what a karate movie, you know, when you think about wah, and when you think about and bad sound effects, and when you think about gongs, and when you think about silly weapons, Master of the Flying Guillotine, when you think about crane stance and, you know, people balancing on things and all that kind of stuff, those are Shaw Brothers films, is what you're really, that whole style, that whole library of like 5 sound effects that they reused, and the same stupid whoosh sound put under every movement. Yeah, all that stuff.
And the off-putting violence, too. Shaw Brothers is a lot of those older kung fu films that if you watch them, you'll be like, oh, like, this is gross.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's gross, but it's so poorly done that I'm not recommending it, understand. And some of them are quite violent. But
some of them actually are really well done.
Yeah, some of them are well done. But a lot of times it'll be like, you can see the guy's arm, quote unquote, got cut off, and you can see his real arm stuck under his shirt, while the plastic arm and silly like grape juice looking blood goes flying everywhere. It can be pretty silly. So my favorite of those, and one that I think I can recommend, although for all I remember it probably has like some random nudity and stuff, is one that is called Master of the Flying Guillotine. And it's about a guy that, like, the bad guy has this guillotine contraption on a chain that he swings around, and it goes on people's heads, and he yanks the chain and their heads come off, and it's not very gruesome as I recall, but there's this tournament and all these different fighters with these different styles, So there's like a girl that does grasshopper style, and there's a guy that has 2 staves, and you can see a lot of the inspiration for Mortal Kombat and for all the kind of tournament games and stuff like that in some of these movies. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I didn't realize, because I pulled up Shaw Brothers on Wikipedia. I didn't know that they were active until 2011 and produced Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
There you go.
Which was a major Western crossover hit.
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Yeah.
So they lasted a long time.
Yeah, they lasted a long time. I don't know what the equivalent would be here, but just a major studio that cranked these things out.
It's kind of like, well, it said that I was reading that it was organized on the Hollywood system originally, with all these exclusive contracts to everyone.
Yes, that's really important to understand. So they would get people under contract, which is how Hollywood used to work back in the day. But there were all these lawsuits. Olivia de Havilland famously fought the system. The Errol Flynn's girlfriend in all those movies, Maid Marian. She won a major lawsuit. So now we have what's called the de Havilland laws, and we have these things so that studios can't just tyrannically run people's lives. But that's not how things were back in the day here, and that's not how things were there. So you'd get somebody like Jackie Chan when he was young, I believe, and he would just be under contract as one of their stunt performers, and he would just come in, and one day he'd be assigned to this movie, and the next day he'd be assigned to that movie, and his job would be to just take hits and do pratfalls, and you'd have 50 guys like him, and you'd have your major stars under contract. And so this allowed you to just churn product out and to keep making movies. And it's not like the star would be like, well, let me read some screenplays. I'm going to talk to my agent and see what I want to do. No, it's just like, you're assigned to this movie.
All right.
You're doing Attack of the Flying Guillotine today. And the other thing about that is that, and we can maybe talk about this when we get more into the morality of it, but I think there's something that's connected to the relative cheapness with which they hold human life. And one of the reasons these movies are better as action movies than a lot of their Western counterparts is because the stunt performers are taking risks. They're working longer hours. We're not caring whether we kill our star. I mean, we don't want to kill our star, but we're allowing Jackie Chan to do stunts and stuff that just for liability insurance reasons and stuff we would never.
I feel like a lot of that was more under Chan's control, actually. Like, I think Chan kind of had his own. I don't think that he wasn't inside that system at any point.
Yeah. This is
right?
So this is Chan's. The majority of what we know is Chan's career would have been after that and would have been under his control, although he would have had other people under contract like that.
Yeah.
He would have had his team that he would have paid, and it's the same guys that show up and get beat up by him in every movie. In every movie. But the Shaw Brothers definitely would have that kind of a system, and Jackie Chan would have come out of that kind of a system. And indeed, Harold Lloyd, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton all came out of systems like that, where we're working for Mark Sennett, and we're just doing Keystone Cop comedies, and today I take a pie to the face, and tomorrow I play the buffoonish butler, and the next,
it's the life.
But they would just do take after take after take of these things, and ask their performers to just take falls and take punches. And I mean, the joke is, if you see one of these movies, even now, and someone takes a punch, if you see like a Hollywood movie, then that punch was pulled. That punch just looked like it connected because of the camera angle. If you see a Hong Kong movie, he probably just punched the guy. Like, that's an exaggeration. That's a simplification, but it kind of gets at the difference between what these guys are doing for their action and for their art and what we're doing. And it enables them, I mean, for better or for worse, it enables them to do some really cool stuff. But Jackie Chan broke a lot of bones and came close to dying, and I don't know, maybe we could, people can go listen to our Cowards Climb.
Yeah, I forgot that we discussed him in that
episode.
Yeah, and he doesn't, from what I hear, he walks like, it's like he's permanently bow-legged because he has no cartilage in his knees anymore, so he can't just walk like you or me because it's bone scraping on bone. So that's what he's done with his life.
Right, and for better, I mean, here in America, we have boxers who choose to give up brain cells. I mean, who choose to be permanently brain damaged, know that's what they're doing, and make a lot of money or don't. We have football stars that make those same kinds of decisions. I'm not in love with it. I'm not here to litigate it on this podcast. I'm sure Jake would have some interesting thoughts one way or another. I don't know what he would say about that kind of stuff. But every culture has its blood sports that were willing to sacrifice people to. So I don't want to say Americans are great and, the Hong Kong film industry was just taking advantage of people in a way that we never would.
Yeah.
Our film industry has always been a little bit more careful and well regulated than them. That was my only point. When Jackie Chan came here and started doing Rush Hour and what was that one with Owen Wilson?
Shanghai Noon.
All those cinematic masterpieces.
Yeah.
He was just shocked by how little time was spent on the action scenes and how like he was just used to spending days and days and days just redoing things and getting things right and making sure we all got it in a wide shot. And that's just not how American crews and American directors and American stunt performers were used to working.
That's right. Too bad.
So let's see. Where are we? So we talked about Shaw Brothers. We talked about Jackie Chan. We talked about Bruce Lee.
Given a brief overview of the Hong Kong film industry.
So it sort of broke through in the video market in the 80s. And then a lot of these guys tried to break through in the West in the 90s and early 2000s. And almost all of them not successful.
No, you had Jet Li be a villain in a crummy Lethal Weapon 4.
Yes, Jet Li, and man, that's so stupid because I mean, I've enjoyed a Lethal Weapon movie or two in my time, but the idea that Mel Gibson, grizzled old Mel Gibson, and fat Danny Glover could take on Jet Li in his prime and defeat him is silly.
Yep, not very cool.
Yeah, just not very cool. Not very good. They should have just made. But I'm sure Jet Li cashed a nice paycheck for that.
I'm sure he did.
And he did some international co-productions that had some fun scenes, Kiss of the Dragon, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan, I guess, was successful here. I mean, he wasn't artistically successful, but he made a lot of money. Those Rush Hour movies were popular, and they made a lot of money for everyone involved. But,
yeah. Too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. That's what you get.
Mostly it's been like, what's his face? The guy from...
Brett Ratner.
Yeah, Brett Ratner's the worst. Even before all his allegations and stuff, he's just like the most...
He's the most banal Hollywood director.
Yes.
I don't know. Just a guy who works the system and has no interest in making anything good or no idea how to do it. Yeah,
just one of those guys that must be good in a pitch meeting. That's what I always think. Like he must know how to talk to money people because
I think that's it.
He's kind of been Me Too'd, and it's some pretty serious allegations about the stuff that he did. But in any case, he used to get all these big assignments.
Interestingly, he and Bryan Singer, who's also been Me Too'd, I guess, now share the distinction of having directed an X-Men movie. So
yes, that's right.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting that the people who were attracted to the premier superhero gay sort of parable ended up being perverse and they're
sexually immoral. I think it's a coincidence, probably.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence. Right. There's no lesson to draw from that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, well, here's the thing about Jackie Chan. He artistically successful. Well, no, here's the thing about martial arts movies. Artistically successful in the martial arts movie world, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
Does it mean that you made a movie with really good martial arts scenes? Okay. Well, then by that standard, actually, Chan has not been successful in the United States movie market.
Right.
Does it mean that you made... But he's been successful in other movies that he made in Hong Kong. Does it mean that you made a movie with a good script? Chan might never have been successful in that case, because I don't know of a single movie. There's one kind of on the edge. It's like an artsy-fartsy sort of movie that's still kind of fun. I don't know if no one will have seen it. Little Big Soldier or something, Big Little Soldier, more recent. But I can't eat, but even that, I don't know about that.
Well, okay, so if I'm going to push back on that a little bit, which I basically agree, it's true. These movies all are stupid. But are Astaire and Rogers movies that much better? I mean, in other words, if you're making a movie that's just about dancing, then is the plot of, I guess Singing in the Rain does have a pretty clockwork plot and witty dialogue and stuff. And so does Astaire and Rogers for some of their better ones.
Sure.
But there are genres of movies that are... You're there for the songs, you're there for the dance, you're there for the action scenes, you're there for the whatever it is. Not every movie has to do the same thing. And so I don't think it's entirely unfair to these guys set out to make martial arts showcase films.
I agree. I think that what you just say is that, well, Aaron Rodgers films can be, there's lots of stupid stuff going on.
Right. The plots really don't hold up. They're air, they're wafer thin.
They're wafer thin. Everything is kind of dumb and played for laughs. And that is, I think, the best parallel you're going to get to Jackie Chan in his prime. Although Jackie Chan in his prime is probably going to be more on the crass side.
Which is too bad, and detracts, for sure.
Which is too bad, and it detracts.
My dad actually said something smart about Jackie Chan, I think, one time. Because we watched, for whatever reason, me and my dad watched Rumble in the Bronx.
Oh, yeah.
Which was one of Jackie Chan's, I think it's actually a Eastern-made movie, but it was one of his attempts to break through in the West.
And it's a pretty decent Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, but there's a lot of crassness and a lot of... And what my dad pointed out was Jackie Chan, this is actually not true of Drunken Master, the one that we watched, because the Chan character is pretty vulgar in that one.
That's right.
But generally speaking, Jackie Chan plays a very innocent, naive, kind of boyish, likable character who's just trying to do the right thing. But shucks if he doesn't find himself surrounded by beautiful women whose clothes gets knocked off. Shucks if he doesn't find himself surrounded by vulgar bad guys that are doing vulgar things. Shucks if he doesn't find himself, with friends who are much more crass than he is. And my dad just said, I think he read me some Proverbs about a man's friends, from early in the book of Proverbs. And he's just like, look at the people that Jackie Chan surrounds himself and realize that's more an indication of Jackie Chan's actual personality than this naive
That's right.
boy. Jackie Chan had perfect control over the fact that his naive, boyish, sort of asexual character accidentally ended up in a brothel in this scene or whatever it was.
Sure. Absolutely true. That's a really good point. Jackie Chan's very smart and knows how to have it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So he can be crass without being personally crass or appearing personally crass in his movies.
And it sort of it does work as messaging. Like you do sort of just accept without thinking about it that Jackie Chan personally is a very innocent guy. And he's just being put upon by all these things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so in Drunken Master, he is just a brat. And the movie is like, how can you be a brat? How can you be a better brat? Mm-hmm. The brat that can beat all the other brats. And that's the whole movie.
Right. But you were making a larger point, I think, that I interrupted.
Was I? Anyway, I mean, martial arts movies as a genre are going to be, well, okay, let's just stick with Jackie Chan. The Jackie Chan genre,
right,
insofar as there is such a thing, is going to be, at its best, good fight scenes, but you're still going to have a terrible script. And maybe scene to scene will make you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And which is sort of like a Aaron Rodgers. Often, though, it's going to be more crass.
And just, I don't necessarily dislike this, but I think it's worth pointing out, more broad, more stupid. Like there's no challenge to your intelligence. This is all pitched. The humor is always just pitched at the lowest common. It's like people making funny faces, people getting hit with things, people
That's right.
Having bodily functions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's never much more sophisticated than that.
If you watch Fred Astaire, his body movements, his facial expressions, the little things he does with his scripts is way more sophisticated than anything Jackie Chan does. Yeah,
for an audience today, at the very least, an Astaire and Rodgers movie is a little bit of, not a challenge, I don't want to say, but it's faster in terms of its dialogue and the frame of reference that it's asking us to accept and the level that these characters are operating on than we're used to in movies.
It's more meta about itself, I guess, isn't it? It knows what it is, and it's like asking the audience to play along. Here, we're messing with the form of things.
Right. We all know that Astaire and Rodgers are going to get together at the end. Now let's have a little fun with scrambling the plot around so that they're torn apart. But we're winking as we do it. It's pretty sophisticated.
Yeah, and Jackie Chan has made an effort. I think the most sophisticated movie of his, in that sense, the kind where he's like, I know what the form is, and I'm gonna is when he makes a martial arts version of the Frank Capra movie, Pocket Full of Miracles, and I guess kind of uses another Frank Capra movie, Lady for a Day. Anyway, so Jackie Chan mixes this Capra stuff around and makes his own martial arts version of it, called Miracles or Canton Godfather or Black Dragon or Mr. Canton and Lady Rose. There's all these different titles. I don't know why.
Right.
But it's and I've, for whatever reason, this is weird. I've never found this movie and seen it all the way through.
Right.
But it seems clear that it's ambitious from all the clips I've seen. Very ambitious in terms of like Chan getting a little meta. And I'm sure that it's not successful in terms of having a good script.
Right.
Anyway, that's not what Jackie Chan does. Jet Li is kind of the same in his own way, but Jet Li is not interested in comedy. Almost
No,
at
he
all.
takes things very seriously, and to me, that's a drag. Like, I have limited tolerance for things, especially things that aren't of substance,
right?
That take themselves too seriously.
Yeah,
like if you're gonna be a movie that's made for fun, then let's act like it's fun. Let's not have sad music and people not smiling all the time, and let's establish that these bad guys are sexually abusive too. Before like who cares? Let's just say they're bad guys. And,
yeah. I think now you can find some artsy martial arts films. We've already named one, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You can make an argument. Actually, that movie has a good script. It's thoughtful. It's weird. It's not this kind of storytelling. It just doesn't work the way that we think a story should work.
But I think if I'm going to be a real genre snob, I'd say that's really an Ang Lee movie that's sort of made by a Western filmmaker telling a story. Like it didn't just come magically out of the Hong Kong studio system in the way that. Yeah,
but I still feel like I think of it as a Chinese film. Yeah, a Chinese martial arts film anyway, and I feel like it's. I mean, I think I haven't seen it since it came out. Probably
it's been a long time for me too. Decades probably since I've seen it.
Or you could take that movie Hero, which was a Western breakover and has Jet Li and Donnie Yen. And
that guy. What's the name of that director? He also did House of
Flying Daggers and several other things. Yeah, that's a very famous, I think, mainland Chinese director.
Yes,
I'm just gonna look him up.
He did that Matt Damon movie about the wall.
Oh yeah. Western crossover breakthrough.
Yeah, awesome.
Zhang Yimou. Yeah, Zhang Yimou is a visual genius.
Yeah, those movies are artistic triumphs. I mean, there's no.
They're brilliant.
I don't know how much I love them
or recommend them.
Probably of the three we mentioned, the one that I remember the fondest is House of Flying Daggers, just because it's got some really fun action stuff.
Yeah, and is pretty inappropriate sexually.
Very inappropriate. Yes, I just remembered that now. So. Yeah.
Sorry, listener. Hey, here's the best example of a thoughtful martial arts movie. Don't watch it.
You're probably safe to stick with. Well, even Crouching Tiger has some stuff.
It does,
including the old trope of I'm going to start raping her, and then she's going to like it, and then we're going to fall in love.
Oh boy,
which, you'd think would have been retired by the time Crouching Tiger happened. But
I feel like that's one reason I've never gone back to that movie is because there was some uncomfortable stuff.
The love story between the thief and the girl has too much of that sort of thing. But yeah, whatever. That'd be interesting. Maybe we'll do Crouching Tiger. It seems like the audience for this podcast tends to be of the age demographic where they ask for things like Magnolia and Crouching Tiger and
Magnolia, huh?
Like stuff that kind of hit in the late 90s, early 2000s. That's really in the wheelhouse of people who are listening right now. So I bet they'd love. I mean, they're the kind of people that probably remember American Beauty and wouldn't mind us doing that. Not that we ever will, but yeah. And I'm not accusing any of our listeners of wanting us to do American Beauty. I'm just trying to peg a certain era. Kind of the when Miramax was a force and all this kind of thing.
Right.
So anyway, Crouching Tiger, we should probably just do that sometime.
Yeah.
Be fun to revisit that one. Anyway.
Huh. Well, okay. So Crouching Tiger is artsy fartsy mainland China director. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Who's making like Chinese cinema with a capital, but cinema with a capital C. Like, this film is art, and I know it. And Jackie Chan is nothing like that. And whenever he's tried to make a film like that, he makes garbage.
Right.
Garbage by his own standards, which are, did it have a bunch of fun fight scenes? No. Well, then it's garbage.
Well, he's just not a very compelling. I think Jackie Chan's wonderfully charismatic, and he has a big singing career over there. He's like a famous pop star.
That. It's so weird.
I have some. We both have Chinese friends, and I had a birthday party with one of them one time, and just for fun, I put on Spotify's list of famous '90s pop songs, and it was the best thing I did at that party because the Chinese people there were just like so nostalgic about them. They remembered all these.
Wow.
And, just like if you put on a playlist that had Britney Spears and NSYNC or something like that, and everybody's kind of singing like they don't want to admit it, but they remember that kind of thing. So, but many of the most famous songs that they were all vibing on were Jackie Chan. So
wow.
He had a big career, and it's really cheesy, terrible stuff by our standards.
I'm sure that it is.
Just these mawkish sounding ballads. But anyway, yeah, Jackie Chan's not trying to. I would say it's a little bit like the difference between a noir film from the 1940s when they were just churning them out and Chinatown or something. Like there's people that take the genre elements and make art.
That's right.
But if you just watch one of those movies and think you've seen anything from the genre, then kinda, but not really. Like if you want to see the genre, you have to watch a Drunken Master or a.
You mean so what you're saying is if you just watch one of the artsy movies that's downstream,
yes,
and you think, oh, now I've seen martial art. Well, no, actually, go watch the crass, stupid version of this, and that's martial arts cinema,
right? If you wanted to know what it is, like if you wanted to know if someone just says, oh, I watch martial arts movies all the time, I'm a nerd, I know that stuff. If you've only ever seen Crouching Tiger, you need to at least watch Iron Monkey to understand what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
There is this whole genre. What is it? How do you say it? Wuxia.
Wuxia.
Okay. See, I'm not someone that knows how to pronounce Chinese words.
I mean, I'm not saying I am. But that's what I've heard.
Yeah, wuxia films, which are the ones that are set in the past, and
I think that their defining element is like the fantasy. Mm-hmm. It's like people kind of flying around. Mm-hmm. It's not just, and so there's usually elaborate wire work.
Yes. Once Upon a Time in China is a very famous and pretty awesome. Probably has bad stuff, but I remember it being.
That's actually that would have been a better one for us to start out with than Drunken Master.
Almost, but there's so many things that would have been better for us to.
And that's actually that's pretty close to an older artsy martial arts film. Mm-hmm. I think on a lot of levels it ends up being very stupid anyway. But it has a kind of elegance and a kind of like, hey, we're going to talk to you about Chinese nationalism very intentionally in this movie, as I recall. That's a lot different than Chan being, I'm an imp. I like to drink and beat people up and laugh about it and make poop jokes and,
Yeah.
And Jet Li is like, I'm going to make this elegant movie about someone who represents like the height of the nobility of Chinese culture and is a martial arts master.
Right. Well, that's kind of a good segue. I think we've talked as much as we want to about the history of the genre. Kind of a scattershot. But
yeah, it was really scattershot.
We're just having fun today, folks. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the... You began to hit on some of the moral elements and some of the sort of reoccurring themes that you'll see. And there's several. One is national identity. You see this over and over and over again. And the scars that came from having this British influence. Oftentimes there'll be a British bad guy, or there'll be these really foppish, really silly British characters that are just completely ridiculous. And what was the line you quoted from Fist of Legend earlier?
Oh no, that was from Legend of Drunken Master. There's some British dude there, and he's annoyed that a kung fu school's practice is like disturbing his nap or his sleep or something, and he tells his Chinese henchman, it's disturbing my sleep, so why don't you do something about it? Yes. And it's dubbed over, even though it's clearly a white, like a Caucasian actor, but the voice is dubbed and it doesn't quite match his mouth. Right. So it's really funny.
Yeah. Well, and you'll see that kind of thing all the time.
And also we should mention also scars from the Japanese invasion of China and their history. And so you'll have Japanese bad guys and like karate is the enemy. And maybe it's like Americans practicing karate.
Yeah.
Like in Ip Man 4, if anyone's seen that. And so it's against Western imperialism, it's against Japan, it's kung fu versus karate, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. It really dispels the notion that we as Americans are especially racist. Like, if you listen to the woke crowd, it's like, why can't we just be like all the other cultures and be accepting? But then you watch these movies and it's like, they may be talking about real historical traumas and things that, they may have a point about everything. I'm not here to argue one way or another about that. But what is you watch some of these movies and they just hate the Japanese, or they just hate the British, or it's what's really kind of fun to watch actually as an American is the ones where they just hate the Americans and they just have these crash, boorish, usually Southern talk. It'll be like some badly dubbed guy who talks like this or something, and he's just these dumb, like, American stereotypes. It's fascinating to see how other cultures view us, especially when they don't like us. So, yeah, many of these movies. There's this famous, I don't really remember the history off the top of my head, but there's a conflict between the Japanese and the Chinese. I mean, the occupation, but then there's a specific incident or something that I feel like I've just seen recast and redone in many of these movies. I don't even remember. It's like a riot or a fight or something like that you just see over and over and over and over and over again. It's like this historical scar that they just keep itching. So I just looked it up, folks. It's the Boxer Rebellion, and I don't remember the details. Something to do with...
Oh, it's a peasant uprising.
Yeah, peasant uprising and...
Attempting to drive all foreigners from China, says Encyclopedia Britannica. This is the kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's stupid to have seen a million images of this, but not known what it was. Been like, okay, when's the next fight scene with Jet Li? Yeah. I'm afraid that's one side effect of martial arts movies, at least for me. It's like I have all these images of Chinese history and culture,
right?
But I don't have a context for them, really.
Yeah.
I understand the vibe.
Right.
I get the idea, but I don't know what actually happened or why.
What's really interesting about the Boxer Rebellion in particular is I feel like I've seen, now forgive me if I'm mangling history here, but there's something like this where I've seen Japanese movies that cast it exactly the opposite. So I've seen Chinese movies where the Chinese are awesome and the Japanese are just jerks. And then I've seen Japanese movies where they tell the same story, the exact same incident, and it's like those Chinese, we've got to stop them before they...
Yep.
So, all right, so what is the next sort of reoccurring moral theme that we find striking about these movies, Ben?
Well, Nathan, I would say that it's like, I don't know, there's a decent amount of bloodlust. Well, actually, there's a ton of bloodlust as soon as you think outside of Jackie Chan.
Right.
And a lot of that you could say is like, well, here's your hero, the martial artist, in a situation where the villain will kill him if he doesn't kill the villain, so it's self-defense. But then I think, yeah, but these movies really like that. I mean, our movies do too. Die Hard.
But our movies tend to... The thing that's different, at least until relatively recently, I think it's as our culture has become more pagan, we've moved more this direction in the West. But we used to always feel the need to stack the deck such that the hero had no choice. I mean, how many terrible old John Wayne movies and things are there where the bad guy's given up, he's raised his hands, but we as the audience, we still want to see that bad guy get blown away. And so we're going to just have that guy, when he has no hope, he's just going to go for his gun, and then John Wayne will finish him off.
Righteous kill.
Now, the difference between that is you watch Hard Boiled, the famous Hong Kong movie. They have the bad guy down, same situation, and the hero pulls out his gun and shoots him in the head. That's the end of the movie. That's like one of the last shots of the movie. And they don't feel the need to have the bad guy go for his gun. Like, we don't need to morally stack the deck in such a way that, oh, well, I guess he had to kill the guy. It's like, no, he's the bad guy. He's the antagonist. We're going to kill him. And that goes all the way back to Bruce Lee. You watch he has a famous fight with Chuck Norris before Chuck Norris was the phenomenon that he became. But he just plays the boorish American bad guy in Way of the Fist, I think it is. I don't know. They have a famous fight in the Colosseum in Rome, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
And Chuck Norris is set up as this really awesome antagonist, and you think there's going to be a big fight. You know, you just assume as a Westerner, you've seen a million things like this. They're going to be a fight. Chuck Norris is going to be awesome. Chuck Norris is going to get the upper hand. And then Bruce Lee is going to turn the tables and destroy Chuck Norris. But as we already talked about, that's not what happens. Bruce Lee shows up. He's awesome. Chuck Norris does not stand a chance. Chuck Norris, maybe, I think you said earlier, Ben.
I think he gets like one kick.
Yeah, he gets a kick in or something like that.
And then there's a point where Chuck Norris could give up and Bruce Lee would probably let him live.
Mm-hmm.
But Chuck Norris will not.
Right.
And Bruce Lee's just like, fine.
And then there's a point where there's several points where Bruce Lee could say, well, I've incapacitated him good enough. But that's not what Bruce Lee does.
He just kills him.
He just kills the guy. I don't remember whether he strangles him or
Probably
what.
Just kicks him to death.
Yeah, he's just like slowly kills the guy. And it's supposed to be awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Pretty fun.
Yeah. It's actually not. I mean, even as a kid, who just liked martial arts movies, and it's not really very exciting if the hero just always has the drop on the villain and there's never any tension. And I do get tired. We've moved more in that direction. So nowadays we see too many superpowered kind of stuff like we were talking about in The Matrix, where it's just like, well, the bad guys never really had a chance, so who cares? But before that, we saw lots of situations where it's like, I know the hero is going to flip the tables, so do we have to draw out the tension of like, I've got you now, dangling over a cliff. Let's spend the next 10 minutes monologuing as I slowly, make sparks go towards your hands or something. We know he's going to flip the table. Like, let's just cut to the chase. But these movies, far and away, always cut to the chase, and oftentimes feature heroes who just indiscriminately murder the bad guys.
Yeah, it kind of. I feel like it kind of depends. Bruce Lee is a glaring example.
Mm-hmm.
Jet Li, you're not going to get that so much, actually.
Right.
Jet Li, you might get, especially if someone. Okay, Donnie Yen playing Ip Man.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to represent noble, like, I guess sort of what did I want to say? Not Taoist, but maybe somewhat Taoist or Confucianist worldview of honorable behavior.
Right.
And he's not going to end up like killing his enemies. Like the villains in Ip Man, like he beats them up. And he shows that Chinese kung fu is better, and that the Chinese are more noble than these American and Japanese savages, and that's that.
Right.
And so that's a little different. And it really depends. Jackie Chan is not generally interested in killing villains. He's just like
Jackie Chan. I don't think is actually interested in. He's interested in violent motion and violent movement, but he's not interested in violence as we think of it. He's not interested in bloodshed or even really in what happens to a guy when you punch him. He's just interested in moving, dodging, movement, acrobatics,
big dance.
Yeah, it is the closest to Astaire and Rogers that any of these things come. It's really more about, like, my favorite Jackie Chan fight, I think, is from a stupid movie called First Strike, I think, and it's got this ladder fight where there's like 100 bad guys running at Jackie Chan, and he
has a big metal step ladder.
Yeah, it's like a big 8 or 10 foot ladder, and he's swinging it around and using it as a weapon, but then he's also unfolding it real quick and diving through the ladder and weaving in and out of the steps and all this kinds of stuff. And it's just like, how many different things can you do to defend yourself with a ladder? And what are the most acrobatic and ridiculous things you can do while using that ladder?
It's brilliant.
And it's just choreography. You could imagine Olympians doing something. Like, I don't think it feeds that kind of bloodlust at all, actually. No. It's more about, you're pulling for Jackie Chan, you want him to survive, and you want him to be really cool and acrobatic as he does it. But it's really not even about, can I punch these guys? It's more just about, like, can I survive their blows and send them flailing back long enough for me to get to the next stunt?
Yeah.
So there are different schools.
There are different schools. And of course, then there's different levels of violence, even in Jackie Chan films.
Right.
It's a famous, well, anyway, there's just lots of stuff. But the kind of bloodlust you're talking about is definitely more on the Bruce Lee side and the Shaw Brothers side, depending on what you're watching. And
the Shaw Brothers are type films are the ones that Quentin Tarantino was riffing on and kind of postmodernly repurposing for the Kill Bill thing, where we're just going to chop people's limbs off and blood's going to be spraying everywhere and all that kind of stuff.
Just really gross stuff.
Especially when Quentin Tarantino does it way more realistically and
artistically
than those guys ever dreamed of doing it.
Yeah.
I would say, so Jackie Chan doesn't really fit this stereotype, but I would say even for Jet Li, even for many Donnie Yen films quite explicitly, there is just this surprising amount of brutality, of bloodlust, of I don't mind. Like, once I got the other guy on the ropes, I'm going to finish him off, and it's going to take a long time. And it doesn't matter if he tries to run or if he tries to give up. Like, he doesn't even think about giving up. We just sort of understand we're going to do this until somebody dies. And it's weird because it'll be mixed with these moments of honor, quote unquote, you know, a little old lady will cross the street and the bad guy will help her. You know, I think there's a moment like that in one of the Raid movies where, you know, a kid stumbles out of the apartment and they help the kid. You know, they both put down their weapon. You know, have things like that. They really enjoy the sort of the interplay of chivalry and honor and all that sort of thing. But then
with bloodlust.
But then they mix it with like the most egregious bloodlust. And I don't know that it's really all that different than a lot of modern Hollywood movies. I mean, we just do that, but we didn't always, even in our lifetime. Like, Die Hard's a pretty good example. Very violent movie, kind of mean-spirited and bloody in its violence. But we're always going to make sure that John McClane has a reason to do what he does within the context of the story. And, you know, it's John McClane's ultimate goal, as angry as he can be and as brutal as he can be with those terrorists. His goal is to save his wife and to get out of dangerous situations as quickly as possible. It's not generally just like, I love killing people at length for as long as possible. And that's just different. It's, I don't know. I mean, I think it is a difference between a Christian culture and a pagan culture.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the ultimate moral goal of those movies, those martial arts movies, is really different. Like, their idea of honor in the end is not a Christian idea of honor.
Right.
Even if there's superficial similarities at certain points. And you can feel it. If you watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, it's like, this is not really, like, what is this actually? Because it has some stuff that matches us in terms of honor, which is one of the main themes of that movie.
Right.
But then it's not us. So it I don't know. It's a weird world to enter.
Yeah.
Even if you're watching Jackie Chan at his silliest, it's like it almost feels amoral at best.
Yeah. Yeah, Jackie Chan really is just a showcase for acrobatics, I think, in his best movies. And you just the rest of it is just kind of silliness, and it just doesn't, it's not meant to matter all that much. I mean, really the best comparison would be a Crass or Chaplin movie or Lloyd or Keaton movie, because it's just like, well, we don't really care about the plot. We're just getting to the next slapstick sequence.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, should Christians watch martial arts?
Oh, should they watch martial arts movies, Nathan? Well, depends what and how.
Yeah.
What else can we say? I mean, I think we've already said how much we admire, especially Chan's choreography and his. I don't know. You should pull up. Everyone has seen that stepladder scene with Jackie Chan, I feel like. But if you haven't, you should pull it up on YouTube and watch it.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie is really dumb.
Really dumb. Probably has some crass sex stuff and whatever else.
Yeah, and Chan's not going to show you nudity or anything like that, but he'll just be crass, like bad sitcom crass or something. And as far as other things that you could watch with him, there's movies that you could watch with him. They're just going to be silly. They're going to be dumb. You'll get some enjoyment out of them. There's some Jet Li stuff you could watch. You could watch Fists of Legend, probably, if it's not a kid's movie at all. But I don't know. I mean, you have to be able to enjoy the action choreography and not enjoy bloodlust, and know the difference, even in the movie that you're watching, and what it wants and what it's trying to do.
Yeah, I hate that modern movies, modern action movies, modern adult action movies. I mean, there's the Marvel movies and all that, but that's not what we're talking about. Movies that are actually marketed for their action these days are so uniformly about bloodlust, even the better ones, that it's just obnoxious. Like, I enjoy a lot of what Keanu Reeves is doing with the John Wick movies, but so much of those movies are just about brutal gunshots to the head that at the end of the day, you kind of can't enjoy the stuff that is enjoyable about it without entering into a pact with the filmmakers wherein you enjoy brutal headshots to people's heads. And I was just like, didn't really need that. Like,
Yeah,
there are other things that are exciting and that get the blood going and that are fun about an action scene than about the violent snuffing out of human life. Like, it doesn't actually. Some of the best action movies aren't about that, actually. You know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, for all its violence, and it is a movie that is too violent, but it's not. It's got wonderful action scenes that aren't about that. They're about Indiana Jones trying to get out of exciting scrapes and, oh no, the Nazis are crawling on the truck. How do I get them off? Yeah, and even that's going to have some violence. But you see what I got the guy on the front of the truck. I'm going to run him over. You know, it's going to have that too. But the scene, ultimately, we don't remember it for that. We remember it just for the kinetic motion and the choreography and the different problems that Indiana Jones has to anticipate and solve in the moment. And even something as aggressively grotesque as Mad Max Fury Road, I would say, or some of the other Mad Max movies are ultimately more about kinetic motion and choreography and what happens when a truck flips 5 times than they are about what happens when you split open the human body.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yep. Yeah, there is a difference, and it may sound like we're splitting hairs, but there's a difference in my conscience for sure.
I don't think I think there's probably people out there that are so in love with bloodlust that they just shouldn't watch any of, they just like whatever.
All this stuff is bad for them.
But I don't actually think that that's me. I don't think that that's probably a lot of our listeners. I do think that action movies are fun and good when done well. There is a world of difference between Errol Flynn is having a sword fight with Basil Rathbone and
John Wick is shooting people in the head.
John Wick has that guy on the ground and he's going to shoot him in the head twice because that's even cooler than shooting him in the head once. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's taking 2 extremes on the spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, even you take Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Those action sequences, beautiful choreography. They're not about bloodlust at all.
It's just about how can Spider-Man stop a moving train when
he's being attacked by a guy with octopus robot arms.
Right. And I think that's a great question that every young boy should ask himself and
it's pretty fun.
See answered. So I like that stuff. And I think, I mean, not to get too gospel coalition-y about it, but, as men, we are called to subdue and conquer the earth. And so we enjoy stories about subduing and conquering and solving problems. And action movies just distill that into a one big sort of high impact package, and it can be fun and even edifying, I would say, when done well. But more and more these days,
it's not fun or edifying.
It's not fun or edifying.
Or the fun is so mixed up with the bloodlust that it's you can't enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a really frustrating thing about something like John Wick for me. You actually are seeing some really skilled action choreography and some, Keanu Reeves he knows how to reload a gun in a really cool way while, crouching in an he knows how to move his body in a way that's fun to watch. But it is so mixed up with the other stuff so you have to draw your own lines with that stuff, listener. Like we can't tell you which ones feed your blood. Like, I mean, we probably could in private conversation, but we're not gonna do it on this podcast for you.
Nah.
But yeah, there you go. Anything else we want to say about martial arts cinema? Is there anything else that we like about it? It's clear that you and I have spent a lot of time watching these movies and
for better or worse.
For better or worse.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of things that I think are fun and that I still like, and especially I like Jackie Chan.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a lot of fun watching his stuff and thinking about the choreography and the dance of it. I don't know what else to say.
The other thing I would say is we do live in the age of YouTube, and I would encourage people to take advantage of that. Like, you don't actually have to sit through, I mean,
that's right,
the whole dumb, crass movie. You can just watch the ladder scene, and that's really all you need to watch from First Contact.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And a lot of Jackie Chan movies, number of Jet Li movies are not, well, if you watch the fun scenes, you've watched enough.
Yeah, there's either the rest of the stuff is either just bad and not good for you, or it's
just boring.
Like, I think most Jet Li movies for me, just because I don't find him to be a particularly charismatic performer or actor when he's not in motion, most Jet Li movies, especially the ones that he made in English language, is like, I do not care about what's going on. I don't care about setting up the bad guys. I don't care about the predicament that the girl's in or whatever it is. Like, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
No. Oh, well.
Yeah. Well, anything else?
No, I don't think there's a whole lot else.
All right. Well, let's call out a patron. As I yawn. Sorry, folks. We've got Jacqueline due for our Patron Choice Award of Awesomeness. Ben, what do you think is awesome about Jacqueline?
I think Jacqueline's flying triple kick into a somersault is her best quality.
I really disagree.
Oh.
I think it is the flying guillotine that she keeps on a chain.
Wow. Well, that's a little more hardcore than I knew that she was. So I guess that wins.
Yeah, no, you should be thanking, if you get a triple kick and a somersault to the face, you should be thanking your lucky stars.
That she didn't pull out the flying guillotine.
That she didn't pull out the flying guillotine.
Ah, yes. The flying guillotine. Classic weaponry.
Very practical.
Very practical.
Man, well, Jacqueline's awesome, and we appreciate her patronage, and that's why she gets the Patron Choice Award of Awesomeness today.
That is why.
All right, Ben. Thanks for joining me on this journey across cultures, and
it was a quick journey, a quick exchange of blows, if you will.
Exchange of blows. You know, we'll probably. I think we're gonna make Jake do. I think we have to redeem our honor with Jake, which, as we all know, honor is the defining quality of life and something that one should be willing to lay down almost anything else for. So I think we have to redeem our honor with Jake, who was not happy with Drunken Master, fell asleep during it, actually, and said he felt like he was watching a Power Rangers.
That's very sad.
And so I think we have to probably at some point do Fist of Legend with Jake.
And
I think probably we'll come around to Crouching Tiger, because that would just be an interesting one to talk about.
Yeah, no, I think so. There are definitely some worthwhile martial arts movies to talk about.
Yes, and we will talk about some of them on this very podcast.
And we might quasi-recommend some more.
We're all about the quasi-recommendation.
I feel like this is a really, we're ending this episode on a really we love martial we love certain scenes from martial arts movies and feel pretty good about them sometimes. I think you should go to YouTube and just watch those and maybe never watch the actual movie. Yeah. Go martial arts movies. That's how I feel right now.
Martial arts movies, 10% of it is awesome.
Yeah, that's about right.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's completely fair. And I don't know, listener, I don't know what you would have us do. My philosophy more and more on this podcast has just been to be honest about where I feel those tensions and, talk about the things that I do find to be awesome and intriguing, because it just doesn't seem like there's much use in this podcast if we're going to not talk about those tensions.
Nah.
I don't know.
Agreed.
So I feel lame about it. I'll admit that on mic, it'd be nice to either say, this is great, and we defend it.
Or this is terrible. You never have to watch it. But instead, we're just sort of an in-between place. Well,
Yeah.
It's mostly terrible, but still, you could watch Jackie Chan. I mean, kind of.
I'll go this far in the terrible camp. If it's something that just doesn't intrigue you at all, if you're, say, a woman, and you're just like, this is not interesting to you, I see no reason for you to broaden your horizons and
Try to watch martial arts movies.
Watch martial arts movies for the most part. There might be one or two things that sort of broke through to the mainstream, a Crouching Tiger or something, where there are things for you to enjoy in it, but you do not have to pull up Jackie Chan things on YouTube. This podcast was addressed to the kinds of people who would like these kinds of things in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
Mantis style reigns supreme. Wow.